This is the after party. Your hosts are the Great Order and No White Guilt. The honors roll call highlights and celebrates those who have conscientiously committed to monthly gifts in my work for White Wellbeing. And appearing on the honors roll call today, a lengthy list of heroes are Jacked. Gotta like that name. Darcy, Thrifty, Gregory and Wayne, Numenko, Ronald, Lee, Hungarian Spectator, William and Andrew, Pete and Yaz, Jay, Miss Rosamond and Ashley, Jacqueline, Starshine Girl, Greg and Sammy, Rujash, Euphemia, Bridge Burner, Ron, Promethean Epoch, Jim, Greg M, Thomas, Robert, Dr. Jellyfingers, the name of our in-house proctologist, Paul, Albertus, Jason, great name there, Saibon, Ryan, and Richard, Omar, Saint McFreeman, John, Normie, and Johnny, our very own Dainty Brighton, Inquipper, Trent, and finally, John G. These noble people have the integrity to gift rather than take, and to them we owe a huge debt of gratitude. I salute every single one of you for your contributions. As for the crown winner of last week, the crown goes to, hold your breath, the wonderful Mrs. Jess Horst for gifting a total of 50 Save Our White Baby dollars. Bless you, dear lady, and thank you. In second place was DB Cooper gifting $10 and naming his third son after yours truly. A big congratulations and thank you many times over, my dear friend. Financially gift on Entropy at 15%, which will be up in a moment, where you can also watch the stream, of course, and ask and vote on questions. Or Cash App. Jared and I evenly share the financial gifts with our guest here on the after party. Today, we have Jody Kaye on tap. She is a new content producer in the white positive sphere, and we are going to make sure that she starts going free as well. I appeared on her show with Mark a few weeks back talking about all things positive. We are excited to have her on tap today. She's a wonderful, sweet, intelligent, and charming woman. Jody, please introduce yourself to our esteemed community. Tell them where they can find you, and then Mr. George will take us into the conversation.
Well, hello, and good evening to anyone that's in the UK or in Europe, and good afternoon to anyone who's in America. My name is Jody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you all. Thank you for inviting me, Jason. Thank you for having me, Jared. Yes, as Jason said, I am new into the sphere of content creating. I am new into the white positive sphere. I am a musician. I've just started making videos. I'm a songwriter, and I'm looking forward to this evening very, very, very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, well, welcome. Since this is your first time, Jody, why don't we begin at the beginning, and you could tell us a little bit about what led you to a more white positive outlook, and from there, what led you specifically to become a public advocate and start doing the work you're doing?
I think it would be easier for me to say what made me become white aware rather than white positive, because I wasn't even aware of my race, other people's race. And it actually started, and I know after speaking with a few people, with the death of George Floyd. That's when my eyes were certainly opened. I've been aware of certain corruptions within governments and the banks. I've been aware of that for years. But after the death of George Floyd, I was in a Telegram group with a group of friends and colleagues, and they were taking the death of George and saying this was a racially motivated murder. And I knew that wasn't the case. And I had been following Mark, who Jason streams with. I'd been following him for a good few months. And he had not long produced a video about the death of George Floyd and the autopsy report. And after everyone was saying, this is a racially motivated murder, this is police brutality again, this is police attacking black people again. And I plucked up the courage to say how it actually really was. But my fear wanted to stop me doing it. I was so scared, and I said to my friend, it was like jumping into the lion's den. If I send this message and say what I'm about to say, I'm going to be jumping into the lion's den. I'm going to be called names. I'm going to be pushed aside. People aren't going to believe me. I'm going to be the wacky one. I'm going to be the one that's saying nasty things about people. But I did it anyway. And as soon
Jody,
as I sent that message, yes.
You remember the nature of that message?
I can probably remember. They were saying it was a racially motivated murder, and I said, I don't think it was murder. I was basically repeating what I'd just seen in Mark's video about the autopsy report, the fact that he was intoxicated with a concoction of drugs. We hadn't seen the camera from the police angle at that time. It's since come out that he was actually struggling to breathe before he had even got on the floor. So it was pretty much what Mark had said in his video and the autopsy report. And there were two differing autopsy reports as well. Even at that stage, there were two different autopsy reports. And I just said, this isn't police brutality. This was a man who was being arrested for committing a crime at that point. He was resisting arrest. And the knee was not on the back of his neck, it was on his back. And I just said, this is not racially motivated, and this is not police brutality.
Also, you said you were listening to Mark months prior to that. So you had to be open to that, because a lot of people will fall upon stuff like that, his material, and be like, oh no, this is forbidden. I can't watch this. I can't listen to this. It's verboten. So you had to be in a certain mind frame even to be open to that kind of material to begin with. So take us into that a little bit, if you could, please.
Well, a very, very dear friend of mine who is in the chat, Von Hash, he had been, I think he kind of took me under his wing because he had become aware of certain information, certain groups of people, and he was educating me on certain groups of people and the history and what's going on today with the banks and with usury and with the governments. So I was aware of one aspect of what's going on. And so listening to Mark, it wasn't so much of a shock to hear what he was saying. But even, I guess when it was coming to race, I just must have not been listening to that, because it wasn't something in my field of awareness. It wasn't something I had even come to realize until, so after the message, I sent this message, and I actually had a friend of mine in the group who was non-white. And because we'd been friends for a long time, we decided to take the chat one-on-one and take it out of the group. And I thought, as me, as a female, and with him as a non-white male, we could talk and we could share histories and we could share what he had been taught and what I'd been taught. And it was going really well. I thought it was going really well, until we actually met face to face. And then he continued to tell me how hated and how despised Britain was around the world. He had well-traveled, he had traveled the world, and he was telling me how hated we were, and he threw slavery at me, he threw colonization at me. And I asked him, if he knew what was going on in the UK with the demographic change, and he said yes, and this is your karma. This is, you're getting everything you deserve. I was just bombarded one after another. But because of my awareness with certain groups of people that, you know, the anti-white, non-whites, I wasn't listening to him speak. I was listening to our enemy speak through him, and it just opened my eyes instantly of the severity of what we're going through and just how hated we are. And it actually sent me into a fit of panic. And because I'd been listening to Mark for months, I actually, and I'm allowed to call him Mike, he lets me call him Mike. I phoned Mike after, and we've known each other for years, and he said he's never ever seen me so upset. I couldn't breathe, I was crying, I was shaking, I was having a panic attack. I came home that night, woke up at 5 in the morning and just felt like a demon. I felt like a demon in my own skin, and I thought, how have I been so blind? Why was I stupid enough to follow Mark Collette? How evil are we? And I've been so blind, and these poor people, and how could we have been such a horrible people to all these other people? And it was it was horrible. It was really, really, really horrible. It was,
That is really, wow. How absolute, and all of this is because I'll just toss in there. Like, for example, you knew when you were about to toss in that comment about this character, the latest cause celeb, or 2 or 3 cause celebs back at this point now. And you knew that when you were going to toss in a view that contradicted the anti-white narrative about what took place and what's taking place. And by the way, on this channel, we agree with everything that CNN says. So as the owner of the channel, whatever CNN says is true about George Floyd, and everything else is speculation here. So just having to, and also, I'm also not speaking for YouTube. So just so you know that as well, not speaking for YouTube. But having said that, you knew if you were going to toss in a view that was contradictory to the anti-white narrative, you knew that people would object. And that comes from growing up inside of an anti-white narrative, being infected with the mean pathogens that we talk about, and knowing that not only is it these ideas, these anti-white precepts, but the morality that's attached, or immorality that is attached inside the anti-white narrative. So you knew that you were going to be really essentially taking the immoral position, the ugly position. And when you had this conversation with this person, again, we're seeing the effect of mean pathogens, because Mike didn't present you with the voluminous data of what the white race had done around the world and how they had victimized everybody. He just gave you his opinion on it. And yet that struck you as absolute fact and tore you down. And the reason why, of course, is the mean pathogens that were inside of you. And so we're kind of getting into the part of the conversation. And this is terrible, ladies and gentlemen, that Jody had to go through this. So many of us have to go through this. It is intense psychological trauma, the likes of which the world has never seen. Never play this down. Never think that you have to say that, you know, only cite like atrocities to thousands of people. Any individual suffering this level of psychological trauma is enough for movies to be made out of, for books to be written about. I mean, this is because the individual represents the lives of all individuals. So this is important. Never forget the names, never forget the trauma. But we're really getting into the next segment that we wanted to talk about, and that is your experience since you started talking about these sorts of things, since you started saying, wait a second, maybe this anti-white narrative isn't quite right. Maybe white people, maybe I shouldn't have to feel responsible for crimes, whether they're committed or fabricated or whatever they might be, for all of time by white people. So this was, I guess, part of your first experience of going public with that, with this instance with Mike. So if you could roll out the rest of what took place there and then build on that as to how it impacted or affected the rest of your life as you began speaking up in contradiction to the anti-white narrative, please.
Just to be clear, Mike was the friend that Mike is Von Hash in chat. He was the one that supported me. Well, after that, luckily, because I'd already been in touch with Mark through email, one day he just said, how are things going? And I just said, I'm having a really difficult time right now. And I didn't feel like I wanted to impose myself on him. And he just said, is it something you want to talk about? And I was like, yes, I really think it is. And I just gave him this long email, and his response was so comforting, because I wasn't the only one that had ever experienced this. I wasn't the only one feeling this. And I've since come into this community, and wow, it's vast, and I'm not the only one. And I praise my courage for sending that initial message and speaking the truth, because had I not, I don't think I'd be where I am right now. And I spoke with Mark, and because I'm a performer, which we'll probably touch on a bit later, and I'm a singer, I'm used to being in the public, I'm used to being on stage. And I just kept asking myself, am I going to start streaming? Am I going to start doing this? And I was drawn to do it because of my experience. Not only my experience of my wake up, but my experience of being so blind to race and being so deracinated by race. And there are still many within our community that just do not see it. And because I've been there, I can empathize with them. And so the reason I wanted to start streaming was to be a beacon for people and say, look, I was where you are, now I'm where I am. And it's okay to think what you're thinking. It's okay that you can see the changes around you, and that they're not changes for the better either. People are realizing this. But actually, after my initial wake up, I actually made a mini, a content video rather than a song, my first ever content video. And I did it because I'm also a trained clown as well. So I did it in my clown voice, because I wanted to bring some humor to a very difficult and disgusting arena. And it wasn't until it came to finishing and I'd done the final edit, it was half an hour. I'd put half an hour in, had no idea, and it just made itself. That's the only way. Sometimes I'd wake up at 4 a.m. and I'd be drawn to a certain website that I needed to see, and that went in the video. And so I did my first content. I think I did my first content video within a week of my wake up, and it was half an hour, and it went to the death of George Floyd, to slavery, and another thing, my friend that gave me this glorious slap around the face, and I can't thank him enough, if I'm honest. I can't thank him enough, and I think it had to be a non-white telling me this. I think it had to be. So I did this video. I've lost my train of thought then. I forgot what I was.
It's quite all right. Happens to me still. So I could tell you, I have a little performance background too. But yeah, the streaming thing, it's a different kind of thing. I'm sure it'll hit you, but we'll go on. Let me ask you this, and then if what you were about to say hits you, you can weave it back in. But we're curious, just in general, whatever you want to pick up on for a couple of minutes, a two-pronged approach, both in our closer spheres, the white positive sphere, and then in general, just the mood of the public. What are things like in the UK right now?
I'm obviously watching from a distance.
Oh, yes, yes.
Because for those that don't know, I'm in Spain at the moment, currently. But it's been, and again, I think had I been in the UK, there's a very, I don't know if it would be a big chance or a small chance, but I might have been part of the BLM movement, because that's the area where I was living was very left-leaning. And I think had I been there, I probably would have been on the streets with all my friends. Mm-hmm. But looking from here, there were obviously the BLM riots that I was seeing in London, and I call them riots. They weren't protests, they were riots. with the police cars being smashed. Police officers were being injured. There was one video of police being escorted away a couple of times from a couple of areas. They were being escorted away, pushed back, and then they were still taking the knee. And yet the likes of Mark Collette and, you know, a few people that went and stood on the top of a hill, Mount Tor, with a simple banner, no violence, no one was hurt in the making of this photo. They were demonized. A very peaceful, calm, expressing white lives matter too. But yet in Brixton, police were being injured and they were being considered peaceful protests.
We get that here too, of course. Yeah.
I don't think it lasted as long, because it's still going on in where you are, isn't it, with the riots. I think it was very short-lived in the UK. So you've got that side of people, but you've also got there was a TV show, and I don't have a TV. This was only what I've seen online. There was a TV show.
Good for you.
Yeah. Haven't had one for over 10 years, so I've been, yes, here's to that. Here's to not having a TV. If you're in the audience, just turn your TV off, because it's not good for you.
Yeah. I've never owned one.
There was a TV show that was primetime TV. It's one of the highest rating shows, and a dance group called Diversity. And I don't think they're very diverse. I think they're all non-whites. I might be wrong. They did a dance. They did a dance performance about the death of George Floyd, and the number of complaints that show had, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people boycotted that show after, even though they're not where we are, they don't have the awareness we are, but they're like, well, this isn't okay. So that was the first thing, and then there was another on the same. I think it was the same channel. A non-white comedian was talking about how, how bad white people are, and someone, even said the words "kill whitey," and haha, that's funny, isn't it? Well, no, it's not funny, but people are waking up to this. So it is really two-pronged in the UK, which I'm guessing it is everywhere, but more people are now waking up to, the sports presenters on TV, they're all being replaced for this diversity measures. They're all being replaced, and it's waking people up. And one woman said to me, because she knows now where I am and where my political views are, she said, I was walking to town the other day and I felt so intimidated. There was a group of lads that weren't from here, and she said, I felt really scared for the first time in my life. And she said, but I'm not racist. And that's how she ended her. She said, I'm not racist. I was like, well, you don't, if you're intimidated. But it's this thing that I'm not racist, but this isn't okay. And it's like, yeah, but I'm not. It's like this fear of being called this silly word, this nonsensical word.
Yes, that disclaimer, that's coming from, they're making this argument. And this is one of the most telling things, folks, is that people will suddenly say this disclaimer as though someone is shouting this anti-white slur racist at them. And guess what? Someone is. You can't hear them, but they can. It's their subconscious mind who's shouting racist at them. It's what they've learned over the totality of their life. So that's why then consciously they're trying to make this argument against it out loud. They think, because what they've been taught their whole life, that the thoughts that are going through their head that they've learned about what other people think about those who contradict anti-whiteism are in your head. You see how insidious this is? We're walking around all the time thinking that everyone around us despises us, thinks we're ugly and unintelligent and a threat to society if we're not anti-white. When in reality, we're the vast majority of us. I mean, even we can see somebody as lovely as Jody here that would have been out on the streets had she still been in the UK with these anti-white protestations. She would have been in the streets. We can see that, in fact, these people are having the exact same concerns about what's happening in society. So I want to ask though, Jody, aside from Mark, you've come into the white positive sphere, and you of course, like everybody, have learned that we're just full of vampires and werewolves and who knows, monsters.
We are having a Halloween special in a
We
couple
are.
of weeks, so
We are. I'm just building up for
it doesn't come back.
it's actually the big reveal on Halloween. We're actually going to take off these costumes and we're going to
we actually are monsters.
we are monsters.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I've been sucked in.
You've been sucked in. You've had. So actually, yeah, it's the big part of the year when we actually reveal who we really are. So now you've heard that about us, and everybody has heard that sort of thing about us, but you've come in now and you found out that Mark was actually a wonderful gentleman, and he listened to you. He's a busy person. He listened to you, took time, and answered your questions. And now I see you've been streaming with a lot of different folks in the white positive sphere. How has your experience been with the rest of them? What is your white positive sphere experience thus far since entering?
I've been completely blown away. I've entered a community that I didn't even know existed. I've had people emailing me from as far as Australia, thanking me for speaking out, thanking me again for showing my face. I think people have really appreciated that part as well. And because of my creativity, I've had people send me poems, I've had people send me music. So and I want to be a beacon for people. And Laura used the words normalizing nationalism. And then Von Hash in the chat said, well, let's nationalize normalism. So both ways work really well, but I've made some amazing friends. I haven't met any of them yet. I haven't met any of them, but I will. And I know, even though we've had contact online, they're my family, they're my friends instantly. And that it's blowing me away. And I feel very blessed. And I want to share it with everyone. This feeling of being held and being understood and being able to talk about things that matter, and we're all on the same wavelength, and we all understand what we have to go through now and come together as a group to get through this. And the fact that so many people are reaching out to me, I wanted to be a stepping stone for people to take them to Mark. I've made the leap. I've got to where I am. So much so that I've started streaming, and so much so that I'm heading back to the UK next month. That this is what I want to be with my people, where I belong, on my home ground. So I'm heading home.
On that note, if you could expand into what all of your awareness has led you to think about what connects us all worldwide. And we always like to ask people when they're on for the first time, how you've come to understand or navigate, because we all have different ways of conceiving this or different metaphors we like to use to explain this. But on the one hand, your ethnicity, so you're going back to your island, and we have a lot of friends. We have a lot of British friends here, Jason and I. We like to think of ourselves as transatlantic diplomats sometimes, but you have that side of yourself, you're British, but there is the umbrella of that wider racial or civilizational identity as well. Obviously, our enemies try to posit one against the other and break down identity and play all these psychological games, all these word games, but how has that blossomed in you? How have you come to better understand and articulate what unites us worldwide, and what the us is? How there's a bigger us, but then there's smaller ethnicities as well, and we all want to see those preserved as well. So please take it away on that.
Well, when I obviously I wasn't alone because I had my friend here, but when I had my wake up, and I was already familiar with kind of Mark's circle, and then I started watching other streams, and I was like, wow, here's someone else, and they're not from England, like James Fox Higgins, you know, so our Australian brothers and sisters. And I was actually really moved when I think it was my first stream, or I may have even shared something online. One of the first emails I got was from a friend of mine, and she's from South Africa. And she's my friend's mum. And she was one of the first emails I got. And she said, Jody, I'm so proud of you, and I can't thank you enough. They left South Africa, gosh, I can't remember how many years ago now, but just speaking with her and listening to what is still going on in South Africa. So it's like, wow, we are all connected. We are, you know, speaking with you two from across the seas. It's really, I feel this family is broad and wide, and we do all share the common goal that we are under attack. We are under attack physically, with the riots that are still going on, but with the changes, with the rapid changes of the demographic changes in the UK. I know you've got it there in America as well. I think Australia, they were having their point system for immigration, which the UK wanted to bring in. So it's made me just go, wow, this is massive. This is really big. And not only, like, who is us? This community, the white positive community, who is us, and what is good for us and what is best for us. And we've not been allowed to talk about this ever. They don't want us talking about it now. They don't want us coming together as an us. They don't want us talking about what's good for us. They don't want us to be grouping together, whereas other groups are encouraged to do the same. They're encouraged to do what we aren't allowed. And so I think now more than ever, it's important that we have these conversations and we speak out and we get together and we share and we talk, because we have to do this, and we're allowed to do this. We don't need permission to do this. We shouldn't need permission to do this. To be positively ethnocentric, which we are, it's been taught out of us that we can't do this.
And do you have any thoughts on, if someone were to say to you, well, you're English or you're British, you're not, the white is too generic, there's no such thing. Again, where we started, where you navigate those differences between the nested, your Englishness, let's say, in Britain, but then the connection as well, just as a people.
Well, this is, I'm still trying to get my head round, because I remember growing up, and my dad had an Irish friend, but no, back then it was like they used to say, God, we shouldn't even really be friends with what England and Ireland have been through, and the same with Scotland and England. It was like, we shouldn't really be friends. So even between the island, the British Isles, there's differences and contrasts, but we're still a people. But I am still getting my head around the ideas of race and ethnicity and the wider group. Because I'm fairly new into my own race. I'm still treading grounds with it, and I have a lot to learn and a lot to take on board. So I'm sorry I can't answer that so well. That's the most honest way to answer, and you're in good company. I'm sure it'll come into sharper focus as you keep going down your path. I know we already touched on this, but just to make sure there's nothing else to speak on this. If not, we can move on. We certainly have other topics we want to get to while we have you. But we did want to make sure you said everything you could about because we always like to kind of get the view on the ground from Britain when we speak to our British friends, or I know you're not there now, you're going back soon, but of course you're closer to it than we are.
how, again, the goings on in this very hot summer, now it's autumn here, but it still seems to be continuing into autumn, this hot year in the US and the riots and everything you indicated, how that kind of blew back across the Atlantic. It's funny, we're told we're not supposed to be connected, but in this way, sure we are. It's like the shadow side of it, that a lot of the UK public took on this American phenomenon as their own. It caused, you already spoke to the riots there, but anything you want to say more about just how it's shaped discourse and the agenda, what you hear from the mainstream news and education in Great Britain, how the goings on in the US this year have affected things there as well?
Well, it's really interesting because I guess there's a consensus, obviously, with the elections coming up, and people are like, why do we have to care about the American elections? What's that gonna do? What's that got to do with us over here? But what happens in America will eventually make its way overseas. And so in that respect, people are like, yeah, but it's American elections. It's not for us. But on the other hand, this American man that got killed instantly came over. And so the BLM movements were rife in the UK, and it is in schools. And I don't follow mainstream media, never really have. But from what I'm seeing from social media, in schools, in primary schools, children are being sent home with BLM homework assignments. It's being, one of my neighbours in where my family are from, I think their granddaughter or grandchild is in university, and they are being flooded with this BLM, and it's disconnecting the age gaps, because the grandchildren are really, really angry with their grandparents. Like, why are you being so horrible to these people? Why can't you understand these people have been hurt and it's our fault? And the grandparents are like, why can't you see what's going on? So it's dividing between families, it's dividing between the generations, but amongst groups of people. I don't know what it's like in the UK, I have to confess, but I think I saw a picture of the BLM. Someone had been arrested on one of the riots, and they were all white. There wasn't one non-white face on there. They were all white people that had been arrested. So I don't know in the UK if I'm guessing it was fairly even between the non-whites and the whites protesting for BLM. But it really has and is creating a divide. Children, as someone took a picture of their children's school display board, and it was George Floyd, it was BLM. It's like, this man was a criminal. I'm not saying he should have been condoned to death, but he was a criminal, and he had done some really terrible things in his past, and yet he's so worshipped over in the UK. And poor Canon Hinnant doesn't even, I don't know if anyone in the UK would even know of Canon Hinnant.
Right. That says all that needs to be said.
Yeah. And if you don't appreciate George Floyd, then you're on that side. You're one of them. And because you're one of them, you're not one of us, which is what you've just asked about me being a Briton, but also me being part of the us. It's shattering connections and dividing people. But I do think it will turn on itself. I don't know if I wasn't sure about to bring this up, but I don't know if you've heard in what's happened in France today. Yeah.
A beheading.
Which is absolutely, it's horrific. So is that going to reach the mainstream? Mm-hmm. Luckily, people, obviously they can't hide his ethnicity. So it's so tragic. But how many more Canon Hinnants do there have to be? How many more beheadings do there have to be? How long does it have to go on for? And I don't think it's going to be that long. I really don't.
Well, this is the thing, and these are some magnificently astute observations. And so kudos to you, Jody. We're glad to have you join the White Positive sphere, because this is the kind of thing we need. In just a moment, we're going to get into. We're going to take a little veer off of this subject matter into your musical talents and experiences. But before we do, I just want to say that when it comes to things like how bad it's getting, things like beheadings and these children being shot dead by anti-whites and the like, and that not being reported, these being hush crimes is what we refer to them as. I did want to mention that when it comes to the politics, because I imagine you're going to be hit with this a lot, being somebody of your background, and you're going to be going back to the UK. And that is, well, what does it matter what's happening in the United States? Well, there are two important things there. The first is that we are a global people. The white people that are going to survive the bottleneck of anti-whiteism are going to be the ones that realize that we are a single nation with many countries. So wherever we suffer, that is our suffering. That is when we move, whatever country it is, whatever place it is on this entire planet, and hopefully in the future it'll be other planets as well. But wherever it is, that's our people. Those are our brothers and sisters. We determine our identity by way of our biospirit, not by way of these lines, these invisible lines we draw, or the differences in our cuisine or accent or language. These things we've allowed to become to be enlarged to the point where we murder our own brothers and sisters over these really trivial things. We like as Western kind variety, and we want to expand on it. Becoming and recognizing that we are a single people presupposes that all of our variations will be deepened and widened, and we will embrace and celebrate that variety, because it's just natural for white people to do that. White people would love nothing more than to go to a city center and have like the boulevard and every other restaurant. This is the Polish restaurant. This is the Russian restaurant. This is the, it would just be one after the other. And you would see like the dress, you would see the different, with the music, everything. White people would love that. It would all be safe. It would be wonderful. So that's our future if we recapture our destiny. So the fact that these things are getting really bad presents us with the opportunity to help people go free. So the first thing is that it matters what's happening in the US because we're a single people. And that's why it matters to people in the UK or Germany or anywhere else. The other thing that's relevant, and you were kind of touching upon it there, is that when it comes to the United States, we're talking about the sole superpower of the world. So whatever happens here is going to happen everywhere else around the world, every other Western country. And should this country fall in toto to the anti-whites, there's no saving Western kind. The United States has all of the weapons imaginable and the defense mechanisms imaginable, and rabid anti-whites who have demonstrated their willingness to have no morality whatsoever, break every single rule and law and ethic and etc. to achieve anti-white objectives. They would just wipe out any other Western country that tried to resist in a blink of an eye, and they wouldn't even care if there were Americans dying in the process as well. Wouldn't bother them at all, as history shows us. So I will say this, and then we're gonna take this exit onto something a little more artistic, and that is, I will ask you if you have the book Go Free, and if not, I will buy it for you. I will give you a link for the ebook so that if you have a Kindle or the Kindle app, you can immediately download and open it up and start reading. So I will send it to you at the end of the show. Do you have it? If not, I will send it.
I think you possibly did send. I think I've already got this on my Kindle.
Okay,
actually.
great.
I think I already do. And
Fabulous.
It's exactly, it is going free. It is going free. It was like that first message I sent it, and my heart was so scared. It's like, I've done it. I've said it. And yes, I got called racist and I was attacked and I was pathologized. That there's something wrong with you for thinking like this. And no, there isn't anything. And this was really quite painful. The friend that gave me the glorious slap around the face was a big man, very muscular, very tall. Instantly, because of where I'd found myself, being race aware, dare I say the word nationalist, my best friend told me he is now frightened to be in my company. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you've known me for years. What are you talking about? It's like he's scared for his safety with you. Like, that's just ridiculous. And I haven't spoken to her since, because it was the most
Yeah.
ridiculous thing. She's
Yeah.
known me for years, and so, you know, but
It's,
I lost a friend, but I've gained a family. I've gained this wonderful, and like you said, one people, many nations. I love that. I love that because it's so true. And I've never felt more connected to people either. I've never felt more connected
that's
than I
the
do now.
beauty. Yeah. That's the absolute beauty of it. Well, thank you for saying that. Good. I'm glad. Well, let's do this. Let's veer off into your musical talents and what you do musically, and in your past, you have been in these creative circles, and I really would like to know what kind of expectations, what type of people do you find there? Are you expected in these circles, or have you been expected to be anti-white? And so, if you could begin with the where you are talented, what you play, what you do you sing, and then what were your expectations in the past, and if you could round it out with how might your musical talents play into your advocacy for white well-being.
One of my favorite questions. I was blessed from a very young age with the gift of music. I was playing the keyboard from around the age of 5 or 6. I learned to play the guitar when I was 7, and I'm pretty much self-taught as well. My dad showed me the chords on the guitar, but I've taught myself the keyboard, the piano, the guitar, the flute, the saxophone. I sing,
Wow.
I write songs. I've now started producing my own music. I'm recording my own music. I'm making my own music videos. And growing up, I was in love with the Woodstock era, you know, Joan Baez, Joni Mitchell. And I grew up and I honestly thought I'd been born in the wrong era. I was like, Mom, I should have been there. I should have been singing peace songs. I could have done so much if I was there, and I could have sung everyone into peace and love. Little did I know that my songs are needed right now. So I've had some political, when I was writing, and I was, you know, some songs about war, some songs about the bankers, some songs about the people in charge. But now I am so drawn to sing for our people, for my people. I want to sing songs about England. I'm returning to England next month, and I'm writing songs about the rolling hills of England and the English seas and the struggles we are in. But because I'm so optimistic, I will be singing with faith, and I will be singing with courage, and like songs to encourage people, songs to get them through these hard times and reach people and say, you know, you are not alone, you are together, we are together, and we're going to get through this. So I feel so drawn to just motivate people through music, because music is such a key element in reaching people through the stages we've been in before. Music is the soundtrack to certain parts of history, and music can guide certain paths, certain people to certain paths. And that's what I want to do. And I feel with my blessings of music and songwriting and my many, many talents, I've not been given these to just sit on them. And now I have an audience. And at first I thought I'm going to keep my songs on one channel and I'm going to keep my streams on another channel, because the people that are into the politics might not want to hear my songs, and the people that want to hear my songs might not want to be into the politics. And I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to move my songs over. And the feedback has been so beautiful. People are saying, Jody, your songs come straight to my heart. They make me smile. They make me uplifted. I think one of my songs may have even been used as an engagement proposal time, and people are really, I mean, it's wonderful. So I now feel I have such a purpose to sing and call out to our people and call them together and give them courage, because this can be quite a scary time, and fear is okay. Fear is it's a natural human emotion, but find the courage, let that override the fear, and we find what you can to get through this. And so that's that's what I want to do through my music and my songs. And I think I'm already reaching people with that. And I haven't even started writing with my new vision yet. I haven't even started. So they are to come still.
What was your experience like in the past? We've spoken to many people on this show who have creative backgrounds or sometimes in communications, journalism, where there was that understood just energy in the air that you're supposed to be a certain way. What can you say about that? What was your experience of that? Because some people were just in that milieu and then eventually broke out of it. And some people never really were quite in that milieu, but they have these interesting instances of the others can kind of sniff them out. And it's a tricky thing because you don't want to get into this finger pointing and this excuse making. Like, I didn't make it because I would have been a big rock star, but you have to be a leftist. I mean, that's true, but it's a delicate line because you don't want to get into this excuse making. We're not those kind of people. But there is still, I've had my own experiences, and we've had this conversation with several others. I'm sure, Jason, you remember, where there's just an unsaid culture amongst all of these people who are supposedly open-minded. They profess open-mindedness. There's actually a very narrow parameters of what you're supposed to say, believe in, and they can sniff you out if you don't go with the program, even if you're not explicit, even if you're not standing on a soapbox saying, well, I think differently and here's my manifesto. It doesn't have to be explicit, but they can kind of tell that you don't have the value set and the worldview that they do. So what do you have to say about that?
I've been very lucky that my time with bands, we gigged a lot in the UK. We did a tour of the UK, but we always remained independent. So we never had anyone telling us we shouldn't be singing this song or we couldn't sing this song. Even if I was told that, I don't think I would have listened. I think I would have just some of my songs, I've been told that's quite brave that you're saying that.
So you're saying even prior to your YouTubing, you were doing songs that drifted in directions other than the mainstream? I see.
But
so it's not like you did a 180. Is that you weren't a blue-haired? You weren't a blue-haired like gender studies type.
I did get into piercings. I've because I'm moving, I found a picture and I had my nose pierced and my lip pierced, and my uncle just said to me, what are you doing with your beautiful face? And I was like, nah, I'll do what I like. So I kind of did rebel slightly. But I've always, even from a young girl, justice is important to me. Fairness and justice has always been important to me. And hearing about the wars that are going on, so I wrote a song about the war and the people behind it and the people that are suffering. And I don't think that's on my YouTube. I think it's on Von Hash's YouTube. And I've always been drawn to help and want to support the vulnerable and the needy. Little did I know that my people are now the vulnerable and needy, because I didn't know I had a people. So now I do have a people. So I've been so blessed that because I've been an independent artist, I've had no one restricting and censoring what I can say. And a friend of mine, she actually got signed to a company, and they were directing her songs and her videos. And I said there and then, no one is buying my songs off me. I don't have a price. What I'm saying is more important than a record deal, or what I'm saying is more important than money. And I stand by that to this day, and I will continue singing and singing the truth. I will continue. I will not stop.
Jody, before we get to some of the chat questions from the community that Jason will be presenting, the one last thing we want to talk about it kind of expands from what you were just saying. It's a topic near and dear to me. is how the presence of someone like you in this, it starts to erode this, again, very narrow stereotype that people who care, us people of European descent who care about our culture and heritage, are these troglodytes. And how important it is to have people with different backgrounds and interests and talents and personality types. But specifically too, as often goes with a creative temperament, there is a certain openness, and it's presented as if these things are mutually exclusive, where you might learn from other cultures, travel. I know that you have some material up that deals with spirituality and certain practices from other cultures. And if you have a good enough handle on who you are and where you come from, those things don't have to be mutually exclusive at all. But really, really want to hear about your take on that sort of thing, the creative temperament, the openness, even the spirituality, and how the anti-whites think that they own these things. They think they own yoga and organic eating and meditation and anything in that milieu. So
Fundamentally, I think we are all just seeking for the truth. It's been kept from us purposefully, and I think we are all just on a mission to find the truth. Now, some people find that in books, some people find that in traveling, some people find that in going, like you say, to explore different parts of the world, to discover themselves, who they are when they're in a different part of the world. And again, it was my music, my love for music. When I was 16, I was studying music in college, and I came across music therapy, and I was like, wow, you can actually use music for therapy. You can use music as a medicine to help people. I was driven by that. And so from there, I then went on to learn sound therapy. So I trained in sound therapy, which the ancient Greeks were using. But sound is also very, very important in India. So through my sound therapy, I traveled to India, and I learned mantra, and I learned part of the Sanskrit language. I learned yoga. I don't follow Hinduism. I consider myself a Christian. I have a wide and a deep, deep faith in God. And I think I fell out with religion when I was growing up. I went to a Christian school. I fell out with religion. When I was growing up, even as a young person, I thought, and I kept saying, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Then when I came into this kind of spiritual sphere, and I saw what spirituality meant to people, and it meant, it's very left-leaning, like there is no such thing as truth. There is, so luckily, because I consider myself quite, yes, I am open-minded, but I didn't get caught into that trap, because I think yoga as well can kind of be a trap for Western women. Like, just there is no such thing as truth, and just peace and love, and I kept being told when I was waking up to this vile attack on white people, I was like, just come into your heart, just breathe, just focus on your heart. And I was like, that's not going to help anyone. It might make me feel calm for a minute. I'll go into my heart space when I wake up in the morning, then I'm going to take action. So it can be a trap. And I think if you don't get caught in that trap, I personally think, because I've experienced the benefits of yoga and I've experienced the benefits of mantra and sound, I haven't done it in a while, but meditation, I pray. But it can draw people into this very passive, very liberal, everyone is us. Like, we are aware of, we are an us. But in that world, that kind of new age spirituality, everyone is us. Everyone just wants to be like us, and we just want to be with everyone else, and there's only the human race, and we are all just one race. So I think some people can get caught in that trap, whereas I feel blessed that I've been able to travel to India and explore sound in a way that I haven't in the West. I'm now starting to explore sound from the ancient Greeks and the Pythagoras thought, and how sound and music really, I mean, we all feel the benefits of music. We just have to put on our favorite tune or listen to our favorite singer, Axl Rose. I mean, come on. We all, and it touches us.
There's a lot of frequencies in his voice, back in the day at least.
Music touches us, and sound touches us. Sound, in frequency. So that's really where I'm at. So what was the question? Did I answer the question, or did I?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was wherever you wanted to take it. I just wanted to hear some of your thoughts on that kind of thing. Yeah.
But yeah, I have a very, very deep faith in God. I think that's what keeps me very positive and very focused. I would say I'm spiritual as well. I have explored different cultures. I've looked into Buddhism, I've looked into Christianity, I've looked into Hinduism. It doesn't stop me being a Christian, my faith is with God.
And you're really saying a lot there with a lot of this, like the yoga you're talking about and this idea. And I've challenged anti-whites who claim to be this love everybody, one race, even though there's no evidence of that whatsoever. I've challenged them and discovered that, indeed, there are truths. It's just their truths that have to be accepted. There's no truth, there's no reality. It's all just amorphous until you reach their truths. And of course, that's a self-defeating statement in philosophy. So these people are supposed to be like profound thinkers, sitting in like the whatever position for 16 months at a time and going without food and water.
None of them are not
for all of that time, as though any of that's real. And then and then they make a self-defeating statement just right on its face. It is false.
Yeah,
but that's
harmony, man.
Wisdom.
For me, everything it comes down to a harmony, and it's a lot of these people go to one extreme and they think that their extreme is wisdom. There are these mysteries, these seeming contradictions, that there's one in many and there is many in one, and you can look at all of humanity that way. I can get up here and do this, and I still do. You could look at all of life on Earth that way. You can include the mammals and the birds and everything. There is a level where everything is one, and there's a level where everything is particular, because there's no meaning in this world without particulars. It's about understanding the harmony of these things. And what concerns me about a lot of the narratives in the modern world is that we've severed these things, and we've mistaken extremes for thinking the extremes are the harmony. And that's part of what motivated me to get up here and do my thing. But I'm not being interviewed today, so
yeah,
I'll leave it at that.
We can say this, and then we're gonna be tapping out here in a moment, folks. We've had a splendid show with Jody, and I would love to bring her back and appear on her show again. And please, if you haven't already, her link to her YouTube channel is in the description. The other links will be Telegram and Twitter, will be available on all three of Mr. George and my websites. And they won't be here because we get strikes for that. But you can find her YouTube, and so do click on that and click subscribe so we can build up her audience. We want more people, especially more young ladies, seeing Jody and the absolute positive energy that she has. But before moving on to the couple of, so if you're going to financially gift, please do so now. If you have any questions, tag me, tag Mr. George. Do so now, because we'll be tapping out in a moment. But yes, if one of these extraordinarily flexible people, emaciated people, come out of India or someplace like this and they tell you that there is no truth, they've just said that their own statement was false. So never take them at their words. They're not nearly as wise or bright as they would seem to be, at least these particular ones. Let's jump on over to entropy. And we find over here the one and only wonderful, dear lady, Mrs. Jess Horst. I can't wait to meet her in person one of these days and throw my arms.
Like our surrogate mother at this point.
She is. She's so lovely. $15 financial gift. Thank you so very much, Mrs. Jess Horst. And she writes here, we are so happy that you see us and we see you, lovely lady. That is wonderful. Thank you so very much. Directing that to Miss Jody.
Beautiful.
Kaye. Yeah, it is really beautiful. And we have a question so far from Eternalism. And I don't know if Jody knows anything about this, but Eternalism asks, could you ask Jody about the planned UK Groip-a-thon this weekend?
I do know about that because I'm involved with that.
All right. Well, please.
It's not a grope-a-thon. Not a grope-a-thon. It's
Not a
safe.
Grope-a-thon. No, the frogs are out. I obviously Nick Fuentes started the groiping in America, but it's reached us over here, and it's just to gather people, because obviously I've now started streaming. I've taken action, and there are just some people in the UK that are thinking, how can I get involved? You know, not everyone is meant for the streaming. Not everyone is meant to write a song. Not everyone is meant to debate like Mark Collette. So it's just getting people active to ring in to local radio stations and get people aware of the demographic changes, get people aware of the immigrants that are coming in through Dover, ask what's going on in the schools, ask why the children are being indoctrinated with this BLM. And so it's just getting the community involved, because obviously there's only so many content creators that can ring in without people hearing the same old voice. So if we get the community involved, and it just has such an impact, and we are talking about, when we're on, because I did my first phone in last week, me and someone else, a man named Charlie, we both mentioned the name Patriotic Alternative, and the spikes on their links on the website, it was massive. So we want to get people to go over to the website, Mark Collette. So we're just dropping Laura Towler's name, or Mark Collette's name, or Patriotic Alternative's names, or the 2066 Britons are going to be a minority. And we're just waking up the audience that are already kind of aware that something isn't right, but we just want to direct them to us and say, come, you know, we're here. This is the safety net for you. This is the safe zone. You can talk about this, and come and join the community. So that's the Groip-a-thon, and we're streaming tomorrow. I don't know what time it would be in America. It's 3:45 UK time in the afternoon, so it might be late night.
It's late morning on the East Coast, but
okay,
that's not too bad. And someone will have to tell us how that goes. We'll have to check in with one of our British friends soon.
Yes.
Maybe some of them can even stay up very late with us and join. I know it's technically Halloween is an American holiday, but it does have roots, as I've discussed in some of my videos, in the British Isles, you know, in the old harvest festival. So, well, Jason and I have to do some planning. It's Halloween here in the States in a couple of weeks.
Indeed.
And we love it. We love it.
We absolutely love it. Let's see. We have one more financial gift, and that is from Hansa, one of our regular participants, and great hero. Well, we actually have a Casual Cruising just came in just now as well. So we'll read both of these. And Hansa financially gifting $5. Thank you so very much. Writing here, this just to thank Jody for her love and advocacy for our people. Also encouragement for her future musical inspiration, with which she will give healing and courage to white people who may grope in darkness to find their identity and heart. That's groping through the darkness, not groiping through the darkness, ladies and gentlemen. That's a completely different thing. So yes, indeed. Thank you very much for that, Hansa. $5, very kind words. And Casual Cruising, another hero in service to white well-being, financially gifting $3 US. I'm so happy to see gentle souls like Jody take that brave step into our community. Some might have seen you as a lost cause to the road casuals rights liberal disease. We say anti-white disease, but they can hold their heads in shame tonight. Yes, if they thought that she was a lost cause, they indeed will have to hold their heads in shame. Let me have a quick look over here. Very big thank you to you, Casual Cruising. Let me just make sure that we are not missing anybody over here. And it looks like we are good and clean there. Haven't missed anybody. And let's find out. I think Jared, did you want to see if there's anything else, I guess, Jody, that you would like to add before we tap out and ask you to give your final thoughts, Mr. George? Jody?
No, our guest, yeah, please.
Well, firstly, just to thank you both for having me on. And I've not had the chat open, so I'll re-watch this with the chat. But just those wonderful super chats. We are family. We are family, and I feel it, and you feel it. And someone's just said, "Keep up the good work." And I don't intend to stop. I've literally only just begun. I am only at the beginning, and I will continue singing and standing and speaking and showing my face, and I won't stop. I will not stop.
Amen to that. That's the kind of determination that we want to hear.
Well, if anyone asking, Jody's links will be, as Jason was saying earlier, when we post them on our sites. And everyone, please, I know you hear me say this if you're a regular, but some of you are new as well. A lot of people rely too much on social media. They'll say, Jared, this video isn't on YouTube. Go to my website. My website is, I put the work there. That's the catalog of everything, and I have so much more control over it. Same goes for Jason. Same goes for our shared website, the afterparty.tv. So there on the afterparty.tv, it's probably for these shows, of course, the best visual layout where you can just kind of scroll and see the thumbnails of not only this show, but all of the streams Jason and I do together separately. When we appear on someone else's stream, it'll be there. Some of our own one-off videos are also included. We have a partial list of those on the afterparty.tv site. And of course, community generated videos where people do remixes or they take a speech of ours from a stream and put a music behind it. Of course, Jason does Chuck Martell's Garage Party every Friday night. So that's coming up in a couple of hours at 7 o'clock US time. That is just a casual stream, hang out, listening to music and some poetry from our spheres. I have a feeling someone here tonight, actually maybe more than one person, but our guest here tonight may have some of her music featured there soon if she'd like.
Yes.
But so many things going on. But those shows, Chuck Martell's Garage Party, also cataloged on the afterparty.tv. So please do bookmark our sites, get on the mailing lists if you're not already. Increasingly, that will be where we focus. Actually, now that I think of it, Jason, I think it was the 17th. I think tomorrow, so we could call this TAP. Jody, you're here for a historic TAP. We call this TAP the celebration of 1 year of the afterparty.tv. That's when we did that show where we revealed. I remember it was a Friday night, so I think that makes sense. It's tomorrow's Saturday. That although this was a leap year, so I don't really know how that works. But at any rate, I'll look it up. Maybe it was the 18th. But this weekend is the 1 year anniversary of the afterparty.tv when we unveiled that site to the public. So that's our shared site. My site is thegreatorder.com. My video content and otherwise all goes through there. I'll have music soon. I think I've been telling you guys about that. We'll have a lot more to talk about that very soon. I also do Learning in Public, more of a open forum think tank kind of a stream with my friend John Bruce Leonard. We're doing one tomorrow at noon US time, and that'll be 5 in the UK, 6 on the continent in Central Europe at least. So maybe when people are done with the groyping, if some people want to check that out, John and I will be on tomorrow. But those are the sites, the information. Again, when this episode is posted on our sites, all of Jody's links will be on our posts on our site. So Jason, having said that, please take us away into the good night.
Into the good night. Well, let's do this. I'll take us out. I'll tap us out in full right after we have Jody tell us the places that folks can find her, and if she has any project that's coming up that she wants to mention. Where can folks find you, Jody?
You can find me on Telegram. I have a private Telegram group. I release all my songs and videos there first. You can find it's at the White Butterfly, but I think Jason will be posting the links. You can find me on Twitter at the White Butterfly, and you can find me on YouTube. And my project is, I'm writing songs. I'm continuing to write songs, but my biggest project is getting myself back home.
Amen.
To the UK. So I'll be doing some video journals and some live streaming for my journey back home. So, and please, Jason and Jared, please come to mine next on my stream. I would love to have you both on.
Love to. Well, thank you so
Absolutely,
much for being with us.
Thank you. And thank you to your audience as well. They've been amazing. I've just seen some comments in the chat, but thank you. It's been really, really nice being on. Thank you.
Well, they love you. It's very clear that you are now a crowd favorite. And everybody, if you're not already following Jody, please do so. The link is in the description right now. And if you're watching in replay, slide on down that description, find that link, click on that, then click subscribe, ring that bell, make sure to follow her and watch her content when she makes it available. I want to thank everybody who commented today, who participated in the stream in one form or another, asking questions, being polite, of course, as always, serving White Wellbeing, always kipping here in service to White Wellbeing. I want to thank, of course, we had Raymond who was moderating today. A big thank you to Raymond for his moderating, and big thank you to Mr. George, my beloved brother here, who does so much hard work to make sure that we all find these streams educational and enlightening and entertaining. And I want to thank everybody who financially gifted as well over the course of the stream. I thank every single one of you. And as we are wont to do, as Machiavellius just shows up, I think, hello to you, we will shine a spotlight on a couple people that passed by in the crowd tonight. We saw Zoe was there for a while. Hello to you. So was Bill Fentz. So was Angus McIver was there. A big spotlight on you all. A spotlight on Midnight, because why not? And Mary Louise as well. Hello, a spotlight to you. And so was James Hayworth was with us as well. A big hello and spotlight on you. I want to thank you all for showing up for TAP again for this magnificent episode. We enjoyed every second of it, and we look forward to seeing you all again next time.